speech in the afternoon each day. He was a running backs coach at the time by the name of Derek Foster. Coach Foster came up there, toughness and pushing through. He got real razzed up as his speech progressed. We had a video coordinator named Rocky. He finishes his speech and he goes, "Hit it, Rock!" And Set It Off by Boosie Badass played. As a young white man, it was my first time hearing that song, Set It Off. Yeah, we finna set it off. You heard me? I'm finna put you in the trash bag. Tired of all these knowing me right now, for real. You wanna talk shit? You wanna run your mouth? You want some gangster structure mother in the house? We'll set this job. Yeah. And that was my first time hearing Set It Off. At Samford University, it was the third or fourth week of camp. We were about where teams are right now. Right before the season, everybody's pissing and moaning. We had a different coach come up and give a motivational speech in the afternoon each day. He was a running backs coach at the time by the name of Derek Foster. Coach Foster came up there, toughness and pushing through. He got real razzed up as his speech progressed. We had a video coordinator named Rocky. He finishes his speech and he goes, "Hit it, Rock!" And Set It Off by Boosie Badass played. What up, what up, what up? We're back, baby. Let me get my headphones on right quick now. Let me get my hair combed back under the mic, baby. Just like that. How we doing? How we doing? Huh? Call me what you want, but you can't call me. Yeah. Come on, man. Let's get a little juice flowing today, huh? Money. God, that's loud, ain't it? Young Rich homie trapping up Bentley. Michelangelo. Today, we gonna talk about Phillip Rivers' return to Indianapolis. We talked about it yesterday, but I feel like we didn't do it justice. I'm gonna talk more about the Chiefs' struggles and how everyone in the AFC West has caught up to the Kansas City Chiefs. We'll talk about Michigan's head coach who just got fired, Sharon Moore, over some allegations. Why do I get gassy when I come on this podcast? I don't have a problem with burping. Any other time in the day, other than when we come on this show, it seems like I'm, getting ready to puke on the mic or something crazy. We'll talk about Penn State finding their guy, getting Iowa State head coach away from the Cyclones, hiring Penn State over there. You don't hire Penn State. You hired, what's his name, Matt Campbell? Is that who that is? Troy Aikman had some complaints about the UCLA football program, one of the most prestigious quarterbacks to ever come out of that institution, cutting checks to players that never end up signing, and he never gets as much as a thank you note from the Bruins athletic program. What a mockery. Listen to Takeoff. He's a good guy, man. Rest in peace, Takeoff. Takeoff's a good guy, man. Rest in peace to the king. Rest in peace to young Dolph. Rest in peace to Rich Homie Quan, etc., etc., etc. So let's get into it. How about it? Phillip Rivers back in Indy. And yesterday I feel like I had a few questions about the timeline, a few questions about how soon they were going to bring Phillip Rivers back. I wouldn't be surprised at all if they ran Phillip Rivers out there this Sunday against Seattle. They have a brutal gauntlet down the last 4 games of the season. They got the Seattle Seahawks on the road, and they are Indianapolis, that is. They are the biggest underdogs in the NFL this week with a point spread of 13.5 points. You got 2, 3, maybe 4 of the best teams in football coming down the stretch for Indy, and you put it on the shoulders of the 44-year-old future Hall of Famer. He was on the ballot this year He was on the 2026 ballot to get voted into the Hall of Fame. I don't know the nuts and bolts of the process as I probably should, but I know that he was on the ballot coming into the 2026 vote, if you call it, for the Hall of Fame. And Phillip Rivers, if he is activated to the active roster in Indianapolis, like we all know he will be, he will no longer be eligible. This is the first time, I believe, that something like this has happened in the history of pro football. Not the first grandpa in the history of pro football, not the first active grandpa in the history of the league. Brett Favre took that accolade as the first active grandfather playing in the NFL. He had a daughter who was 21 when he was with the Vikings, popped out a little child. And so Phillip Rivers is not the first grandfather. But Rivers last season was during COVID. We all remember that season. I remember that season because I was with the Colts in 2019. That's how I got this shirt. I was with the Colts in 2019 selling season tickets, hitting the phones, talking to consumers. That's what you call it in the business sense in the NFL, consumers. You're selling to fans. So primarily your performance in selling those season tickets comes with the prospects of the team's performance. And I remember my second week of work in Indy was the infamous Andrew Luck mid-game retirement. I've told the story on the show. I'll tell the story again for all the new viewers in here. Welcome, by the way, to In the Jar. This is where we rant about college and pro football. Imagine yourself just being trapped in a mason jar. You're trying to get out, and you're like, I'm going to smash this jar. I'm going to rant about something. That is the premise of our show. We come on here every day, Monday through Friday. We rant about college and pro football and other things, but mostly college and pro football. So if you're brand new, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, smash that subscribe button. It's totally free. You won't get added to an email list, and the only way I'm going to climb through the screen and bite you is if you don't subscribe. So hit that subscribe button. But when I was with the Indianapolis Colts in 2019, it was my second week of work, not just in the NFL, but in all of professional corporatism. Okay. It was my first job out of college. It was a consumer sales role. And my second week of work, it was my first game working with the Colts. When you're in sales and sports, you got to go to every single game because that's your product. That's the best time to sell when your product is being showcased. And so it was a preseason game against the Bears. We had worked at the sales table. We had done everything we needed to do, and we were down in the field level suite having a bite to eat with all the media members, all the other employees. And I was sitting across from my buddy, my former coworker, and he slides his phone across the table and said, "Is this real? This has got to be a parody account." He was scrolling Twitter, and it said, Adam Schefter. This was back before you could buy a blue check on Twitter. Only the real G's on Twitter had blue checks at this time. And he said, "Is this real?" He slides the phone across the table. It says, Adam Schefter, Andrew Luck has retired. And I said, "He's got a blue check next to his name, Nate. That ain't no parody account." And I get goosebumps every time I tell this story. Right as I said, this ain't no parody account. We're down on the field level, remember. Start to hear boos. A sea of them. And then everything that you all saw unfold as Andrew Luck walked off the field happened. So Jacoby Brissett was my quarterback selling for the team for the 2019 season. Now, when the season was over, that's when we got news that Phillip Rivers was going to be our quarterback. And I remember selling these seats to people with Phillip Rivers as the main talking point. This was the last time that Phillip Rivers strapped it up for the Indianapolis Colts. And 5 years later, he's back to save this once optimistic Colts season, now dreary Colts season, as they have hit a skid. Their perceived franchise quarterback, Danny Dimes, is out for the year. They have been destroyed with injuries. AR5 is inactive. You got Brett Ripien, perennial practice squad quarterback, who spent most of the season in Cincinnati, now with Indy's practice squad. I don't think pros are pros, but I don't think anyone would be bullish on the Colts running Brett Ripien out there. I'm not even sure I'm pronouncing his name correctly. And so Indianapolis heads to the couch for their guy, Phillip Rivers. Now, it's being reported that Phillip Rivers has been training. I've heard people say that he hasn't been training, and it's literally an off-the-couch kind of thing. He was coaching his son, Gunner, at Fairhope High School down there in South Alabama, the Mobile area. So there's no question that Phillip Rivers has been munching on some of that fried Gulf shrimp, some of that fried shrimp. Hopefully he's been munching on some oysters too, so that he comes out onto the field nice and horned up to finish a heavy playoff push, what seems to be a tall task to round out this Indianapolis season. You're asking a guy who has been out of the league for 4 years to come in and beat some of the best teams in football right now. Now, it's reported that Phillip Rivers calls up Shane Steichen to chat scheme every week. It's reported that they run the same offense at Fairhope High School as they do in Indianapolis. And so it's no question that when Phillip Rivers runs out there for Indianapolis, it could be on Sunday, that they're not going to skip a beat with the scheme of things. It reminds me a lot of when Cincinnati brought Joe Flacco out in week 6 against Green Bay. They started him right away. They knew that as a veteran quarterback, he would be able to grasp the offensive scheme very quickly. And objectively, Joe Flacco played great. There's tons of flaws with that Bengals team. See how I find a way to make it about my Bengals. There's tons of flaws with that Bengals team. And the results in the win-loss column were not what we wanted. But if you look at the statistics, you look at the film, Joe Flacco came in and did his job for Cincinnati. I figure that it'll be more of the same for Phillip Rivers in Indianapolis. It's going to be tough for them to win any of these last 4 games. Seattle, San Francisco, Jacksonville, Texans. I don't know if they win any of them. What's the Colts record right now? Colts record, I know they're outside looking in. Colts record. I just don't want to give you guys bad info here. Colts sit at 8-5. So if the Colts were to lose out, they'd be hosed. If the Colts were to win 1 out of 4, they probably get hosed. Now, you got the 2 division games against Jacksonville and Houston. If they could squeak one of those, they have a fighting chance. But what was once an optimistic energy in Indy, maybe even 4 weeks ago, a month ago, is now looking bleak. Jacksonville sits atop the AFC South at 9-4. Look, it was hard for me to take Jacksonville serious, but they have continued to churn out games. They have continued to show new life under head coach Liam Cohen, and a lot of the same in Houston. Young coach D'Amico Ryans, former player for the Texans, former Alabama Crimson Tide guy, D'Amico Ryans. I just got a text. Every time a text comes through and I'm on the show, I get distracted. So you sign Phillip Rivers off the couch. It's a desperation move. Let's call it what it is. You got Jacob in the chat. Shout out, Jacob. A lot of people think that Phillip Rivers is in tip-top shape. They asked him what about his weight. They asked him about his weight. in a press conference. He had a press conference yesterday, I believe, and they asked him about his weight. He does not know what his weight is. Like I said, I think he's been munching on a bit of that Bayou shrimp, which is fine. That's what you do in retirement. That's what you do when you're the head coach of Fairhope High School. He passes physical with flying colors. He's running. I mentioned that he's running his son's high school offense. Same play calls, exact same motions. Literally everything is the same in the offense. So schematically, it might even be more seamless for Phillip Rivers coming into this offense than it was for Joe Flacco coming into the Bengals offense, which is hard to believe because Joe Flacco looked like he did not have a single moment of lapsing at the helm for the Bengals. So, again, Colts remaining schedule. You got Seattle this weekend. The Colts are 13.5-point underdogs. I don't know who Vegas thinks they're going to run out there. I don't know whether people think it's going to be a long shot that Indy runs Phillip Rivers out there on Sunday, but I don't think it's a long shot at all. In fact, I think it's what's going to happen. It's been 4 years out of the NFL for the future Hall of Famer, and I've seen debate in the media today about whether Phillip Rivers is a Hall of Famer or not. I think he is, simply based on the consistent level of play he showed all those years in San Diego. But some people argue, where is his big moment? Where is his David Tyree head catch big moment? And I struggle to answer that as well. I remember my first NFL game ever in person as a kid. I still have the program. Let me see if I have it. Look at this. Let me get my headphones on. Look at this. This is my first NFL game ever. Phillip Rivers was a starting quarterback for the San Diego Chargers. That's Shane Graham, obscure Bengals kicker Shane Graham on the cover right there. You got a Bengals cast on the back, and this was the season, November 12th, 2006. I don't know if you guys could see that, but that's the old Bengals logo on the bottom right corner right there. This is the program from my first NFL game that I attended in person ever as a kid. The Cincinnati Bengals versus the San Diego Chargers. Phillip Rivers was the quarterback, and Cincinnati, I believe, had a large lead going into the half. And LaDainian Tomlinson, this was the season that he set the NFL rushing touchdown record. I believe it's been broken since then. Maybe not. NFL season touchdown record. Peyton Manning passing, Randy Moss receiving, and LT still holds the total touchdown record at 31, and that's from 2006. So he is still the record holder, and he went for at least 3 touchdowns all in the second half in that game. This game right here, my first NFL game. And that was a moment in Phillip Rivers' lore that I remember. That's a moment that I remember. And really the entirety of his career, if I had to put into one word for Phillip Rivers, it was consistency. And you never see anybody get the ball out as fast as Phillip Rivers. You hear that story about why he throws the ball the way he does. When he was a little kid, he only had access to an adult-sized football, and so he had to kind of shot put it out of there. That's literally the throwing motion right there. Bang. That's Phillip Rivers. Bang. It's like a T-Rex throwing the ball. Short arms. Bang. And it was weird, and it was unorthodox, but you never saw a guy with a release as quick as Phillip Rivers, and especially in pro football, that quick release is exactly what coaches and offensive coordinators and quarterback coaches are looking for. They want that ball out fast. And sometimes you wouldn't even see that ball come out with Phillip Rivers. It came out so fast. And it still seems like after all these years, at 44 years old, that throwing motion has done him justice. We're not talking about pitchers in baseball. We're not talking about wearing your arm out, throwing, playing football as a quarterback. But he's got the same release, and he comes back for the Indianapolis Colts. He's being asked to run this offense at 44. He's coming in mid-season, so you don't have a full offseason to get ready. And the Colts, like I said, are clearly desperate. They just had Danny Dimes go down. This is unprecedented desperation. Now, we've seen this with the Bengals earlier in the year. We covered that extensively on the show. If you want to go back, you can watch replays on the channel. You can watch replays on Kick, Twitch. You can listen to them on Spotify or any other audio platform. But I don't know if this is unprecedented desperation. Joe Flacco was an active player when the Bengals welcomed him into their arms. Phillip Rivers is on the couch. Phillip Rivers was coaching high school football. They just lost the state championship in Alabama not a week or two ago. And we welcome back the dadgummits. We welcome back the dang flabbits. I can't wait. I hope that he's mic'd up for the rest of the year, and we get to watch that at some point, courtesy of NFL Films. And I'm optimistic about Indy. I think they find a way to win at least one of these games, go 9-8. Hopefully, if you're Indy, you find a way to win one of these division games. If you win both, you're definitely in. We're just asking. If we're the Indianapolis Colts, all we're doing is asking for 2-2 over these next 4 games. Now, again, we mentioned this yesterday. It's not like you're playing the Titans. It's not like you're playing the Browns. It's not like you're playing the Jets. It's not like you're playing the Falcons. You're playing some of the best teams in the league coming down the stretch for Indy. It is objectively a nightmare scenario, and that's exactly why they're making this move out of utter desperation. I do think it's unprecedented desperation because for the Bengals, they were desperate. That was a desperate move bringing in Joe Flacco, but I saw a graphic, and I wish I had saved it and put it on the screen here. I saw a graphic on Twitter, basically a graveyard of all of the quarterbacks that Indy has run out there since that Andrew Luck retirement that I experienced working there. And it's about 20 of them. It features Matt Ryan, Carson Wentz, Gardner Minshew, Jacoby Brissett, who was my quarterback in 19, Brian Hoyer, who stepped in for Jacoby for a few games for Indy during that 2019 season that I spent in the building. You had AR5. Who else did you have? You had Riley Leonard, Colts QB graphic. Let's see if I can find it on Google Images here. No, I can't find it. But, I mean, the Colts have had it with quarterbacks ever since Andrew Luck retired. It's almost like the way Colts fans booed Andrew Luck on the way off after all he had done for them. One of the great quarterbacks that never really materialized. I mean, he did materialize, but you know what I'm saying? One of the best quarterbacks that never was. Andrew Luck. And it seems like ever since Colts fans booed him off the field, they have been cursed at the quarterback position. There's no middle ground here for this new saga in Indianapolis with Phillip Rivers. It's either going to be a Hall of Fame moment or it's going to be absolute disaster. And even if Indy is able to win 2 out of these next 4, make the playoffs, how in the hell are you going to muster a playoff run? How in the hell can you be any semblance of serious if you're Indy or a fan of Indy in making a playoff run? It's looking bleak. Guys like McAfee are obviously bullish on it. McAfee donned a horseshoe on his hat during today's show. I'm donning a horseshoe on my collared shirt today. standing in solidarity with the Indianapolis Colts. I believe in Phillip Rivers. I believe that he can get them to the playoffs. I believe that he can win 2 out of 4 games. But again, there's no middle ground here. It's either going to be a Hall of Fame moment for Phillip Rivers. It's going to silence any Hall of Fame doubters that were around regarding Phillip Rivers, or it's going to be an absolute disaster. His actual age, he was born December 8th, 1981. Why does it say that? Oh, must verify. Let's see. I got lost here. If this works, is this the greatest NFL comeback story ever told? It'd be hard to find one that beats this. If he's able to, even if he's able to get him to the playoffs. Now, the Colts are the biggest underdogs of the week. We already mentioned that in the NFL. 13.5-point underdogs against a great Seattle Seahawks team. I'm sure they'll be underdogs for every game the rest of the way. So if you're a bettor and you're trying to make some money, maybe you take the Colts money line with a small amount each week, and maybe that 1 or 2 wins gets you a profit if you're betting Colts money line. And I'm looking at some of these hot takes. If you guys are new to the show, if you're a fan of the show, you know that I use AI to create my outlines for the show every day, and I have it create some hot takes. And some of them are Captain Obvious, not helpful to us. Some of them are so bad I have to condemn them to hell. And sometimes we find a sweet spot where it starts a tangent for us just right. And one of these says, same offense as his son's high school. That's either genius or a joke. Well, that's not really a hot take. That's just kind of ridiculous. You want to model a high school offense after an NFL offense. That's the ideal goal, because then you get these kids ready for what it's actually like at the next level. There's levels to it, right? High school, you're just kind of playing. You have your play calls in high school, but there's not many. All I know is defense. I didn't play both ways in high school, so I don't know what playing offense in high school is really like. I played tight end for a couple years. Never really saw the field at tight end. I only played linebacker, but it's pretty simple in high school. You have a couple of reads you make before the snap, but nothing crazy. The difference between high school and college and pro, obviously the athletes develop. Obviously guys get bigger and faster. But other than that, the main difference between high school, college, pro are the pre-snap checks and reads. And look, I'm kind of retarded. So when I got to college, some of these pre-snap reads and really checks based on a formation started to get a little too much for me. When we got to college and we called something on defense, there were 5 to 7 variations of what we were doing based on motions, based on the formation. And you had to call it out as a linebacker, communicate it with your boys, and then obviously go and execute. And I would get stuck in the mud a lot of the time because, like I said, I'm kind of tarded. I would forget stuff and become kind of a robot, kind of get stuck in the mud, if you will, forget how to play football because I'm worried about all the checks that I had to make based on things that are happening around me in real time. So I can't imagine how many different checks you have, not just as a linebacker in the NFL, but as a quarterback. You probably have way more. So I don't know what extent they ran this offense. They ran Indy's offense at Fairhope High School. And so if he's making these kids do exactly what the pros are doing, these kids are going to be ready for any level of football, and they're going to be able to go in fearlessly. I know his son Gunner is one of the top quarterback prospects in the class of 2027. And again, I'm not sure whether Phillip Rivers was still training. I've heard that he was still training. I heard that he had a throwing accuracy contest with Patriots quarterback Drake May in the offseason, and that Phillip Rivers beat Drake May. Apparently, the throwing accuracy contest was 9-yard throws, and Phillip Rivers beat MVP candidate Drake May. So we'll see if he carries that same accuracy onto the field. I would presume on Sunday. There's no official report yet, but the Bengals ran Flacco out there ASAP. The Bengals were desperate, just like the Colts are desperate. And so I think that they're running Phillip Rivers out there first thing against Seattle on Sunday. Can he handle the physical demands coming down the stretch with Indy set to face some of the best teams in all of pro football? Can he muster some of that magic? Let's get to the topic in the thumbnail, the topic on the title. Is Mahomes a system quarterback? We talked about the Sunday Night Football matchup between the Houston Texans and the Kansas City Chiefs. Sunday night, it was a tackling masterclass. The way these guys rallied to the ball, the way they hit in the cold, the way they wrapped and drove on both sides. The Chiefs were tackling beautifully. The Texans were tackling beautifully. And at the end of the day, the Texans prevail in Arrowhead. This is not something that we are used to seeing. A team like Houston going on the road in Kansas City and toppling Mahomes and the Chiefs really convincingly. It was a tie ball game coming out of the half. It was a defensive battle. Mahomes struggled mightily, didn't throw for a single touchdown. When your talent matches your quarterback play, this is what you get. And this is my chance. This is my opportunity as a Bengals fan to hate on the Chiefs a little bit. I feel like even though the Chiefs are 2 games better than my Bengals, it's fair game to hate on the Chiefs again. And I want to say that I think that Mahomes is an average quarterback with an elite system. He got the football equivalent of the lottery going into Andy Reid's offensive system. Can you imagine if Patrick Mahomes had been drafted by the Giants? Could you imagine if Patrick Mahomes had been drafted by the Bears? Could you imagine if Patrick Mahomes had been drafted by the Jets? I think we'd be seeing this kind of performance from Mahomes that we saw on Sunday night, week in, week out, if he didn't hit the lottery getting drafted by the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, I'm not downplaying his achievements. At the end of the day, wins are wins, Super Bowls are Super Bowls, and with MVPs, you can kind of debate whether that's a popularity contest or not. Joe Burrow should have won the MVP last year, by the way. Okay. Mahomes had Tyreek Hill. Mahomes had a young Travis Kelce. Mahomes had an elite defense. And that all equates to winning with an average quarterback. Current Mahomes is, like I said, what he'd be on the Bears, Titans, Jets, Cardinals, Saints, Panthers. And look, at the end of the day, the system prevails over QB talent, at least in this case. You have an elite supporting cast that has carried Mahomes through all of these years. It's just what it is, guys. It's just what it is. Am I being a little bit of a hater today? Absolutely. There's no question I'm being a bit of a hater right now. It's very easy to say all of this coming off the performance by Mahomes that we saw on Sunday night. Without elite talent around him, Mahomes' actual level of talent shows. He's got amazing arm talent. He's got great ability to improvise and over the years make something out of nothing. But you've put him in this Andy Reid offense that allows the flaws in his game to be covered up. The Chiefs are a great organization. They've got, I'm sure, a great scouting department, personnel department that put the right pieces around a young Mahomes to be able to do what he's done. But now, this season, the last couple of weeks, you're seeing the actual level of talent from Patrick Mahomes. I think he's a system quarterback. And I hope I'm wrong. A lot of my takes end up being wrong. A lot of the highest paid people that do what I do have takes that are wrong. So I hope I'm wrong about Mahomes. I hope he shows me down the stretch why he's not a system quarterback. But also I don't. And that's just the Bengals fan in me wanting to be a Chiefs hater. I miss that rivalry so very much. It feels like the Chiefs-Bengals rivalry has died down. Obviously, the Bengals haven't held up their end of the ship there. The Chiefs this season are not holding up their end of the ship. Neither teams have played each other. Neither teams seem to be in playoff contention, although they both mathematically still are. And I don't think this is opinion. I think this is fact. That the Kansas City Chiefs did an incredible job putting the right pieces around Mahomes early in his career. And momentum in a career of an NFL quarterback is everything. Momentum is everything. You might have a guy with all of the ability, all of the potential in the world, and you throw him out there, and the first couple drives, maybe the first couple games, don't go well. And all of a sudden, you have a young guy who is reading the headlines, building a narrative in his own head that maybe he's not who he thought he was. And this happens to a lot of quarterbacks. Happen to guys like Bryce Young. And credit to Bryce Young, he's got the Panthers in the mix. The Panthers had Rico Dowdle there on offense, and all of a sudden, they prove to be contenders in the NFC South. I remember that headline about that Panthers podcast that shut themselves down because the team was bad. And now all of a sudden, those guys are probably chomping at the bit to bring their podcast back because the Panthers are in the mix coming down the stretch in the NFC South. The NFC South, one of the worst conferences in football. I'd argue the AFC North is probably worse this season, which pains me to say as an AFC North supremacist. But the Panthers have a chance. But Bryce Young is a guy who got thrown to the wolves early and had to fight off all of that negative momentum, or lack of momentum, I guess is a better term, early in his career. Somebody said they have Chiefs fatigue. Oh, that's Miss Lindsay. I sat behind her in the wedding service on Saturday. But on the opposite side of this, Mahomes was put in a good situation. Mahomes was put in a beautiful offensive system. Credit to Andy Reid. He had Tyreek Hill. He had a young Travis Kelce around him. And now Travis Kelce ain't who he used to be. Travis Kelce has got this fiance of his that could carry his life the rest of the way if he didn't want to do a damn thing the rest of his life. How has that affected his play? He dropped a couple footballs on Sunday night. And they had a great defense. They've had Chris Jones there in the nucleus for years and years, a great player. System matters more than people admit. It's really easy to take a quarterback on a team that's winning, especially a team that won championships like the Chiefs did the last decade or so, and say, oh, he's the guy. It's him. The most important position in the game. It's him. And you have to give Mahomes some credit for being able to get in there and execute. I'm not taking all credit away from Mahomes and what he's done. That would be ridiculous. Am I clip farming a bit saying Mahomes is a system QB? Absolutely. But the last couple games, man, really, really supplement that take, especially Sunday night. It's really easy to say all this after the way the Chiefs look on Sunday night, I get that. But you're telling me that Joe Burrow wouldn't be able to do the same thing or more if he got copied and pasted into an organization like the Chiefs with a play caller like Andy Reid? You're out your freaking mind. You're out your damn mind. Chargers and Broncos in the AFC West have caught up to Kansas City. And it looks like this will be the first year in about a decade that Kansas City will not be the division champs in the AFC West. Let's see our hot takes here, and then we're going to send you guys to the house. I'm going to head to jiu-jitsu. I'm reading these hot takes, by the way. Mahomes has never had to be great. He's had great around him. I agree with the second half of that statement. I think the first part of the statement about Mahomes has never been great, I think that's a bit of a stretch. He's got his clips. He's got his highlights. He's made incredible throws before. I remember back at the height of Chiefs mania when Mahomes made that throw in the Super Bowl. They lost the Super Bowl to Tampa Bay, Tom Brady, and Mahomes was laid out. It gave me a disease how viral that throw, that picture went because it was an incomplete pass. And by the way, Joe Burrow made that same throw against Cleveland last year in the regular season and completed it for a touchdown. Nobody batted an eye. Put him on the Titans and let's see what happens. Fair. Absolutely fair. And I don't have much more to say than that. That's a good take. That's borderline obvious to me. The system was doing the work while we blamed the quarterback. Don't really get that. I don't really know. The AI might be hallucinating there. Elite defense made Mahomes look elite. People say that about Burrow and the Bengals' run to the Super Bowl in 2021, even though that defense wasn't that great in my opinion. Now he doesn't have that defense anymore, and we're seeing who he actually is. I think the Chiefs' defense is pretty good still. You struggle to find that reliable, dependable pass catcher for Kansas City. Rashee Rice dropped a ball or two. Xavier Worthy, I'm not sure, has the size. I think Xavier Worthy's more of a jet sweep, punt return merchant or specialist. And then Kelsey is obviously regressing. Kelsey has obviously got more in his life going on outside of football at this point. Can quarterbacks ever be separated from their system? I don't think so. Is it fair to judge Mahomes outside the Chiefs? Yes and no, because at the end of the day, he's on the Chiefs. He's in that system. We are in reality. And to riff on what if, to riff on this, to riff on that, I know we do it for to put things in perspective, and I think speaking on hypotheticals in football at times is absolutely productive, but to a certain extent, it becomes unproductive. And so, is it fair to judge Mahomes outside of if Mahomes? Is it fair to speculate on what Mahomes' career would be if he didn't go to Kansas City? Yes. Is it productive to an extent? But beyond a certain extent, it's not productive. That's the differentiation there. Do other quarterbacks get the same system advantage? The Tom Brady effect. Some of them do. Some of them don't. How much is schematic versus talent at quarterback positions? Well, the scheme is the most important thing. If you're not putting players in the right position to make plays, it's going to be much harder for the players to make plays. I think that is self-explanatory. Let's cover Troy Aikman, UCLA. Michigan's head coach is fired. I got to run to jiu-jitsu like now, but I said that we would cover this, so we'll speed run through it. Troy Aikman, the most recognizable UCLA Bruin quarterback in history, has given large amounts of money unspecified, albeit, to UCLA through NIL. Players he was supposedly paying for didn't even attend UCLA. Not one time. And UCLA never sent as much as a thank you letter, not even a congratulatory letter. This is a disgrace. This should show you how serious UCLA is as a football program. Troy Aikman, one of the most notable personalities in all of football, and you don't even send a thank you letter for a guy that's contributed probably millions of dollars to this program. It's unexcusable. It's disgusting. And it's absolutely indicative of what kind of football program they're running over there at UCLA. A historic one at that. A football program that should have high standards because they produced guys like Troy Aikman. And they don't even send as much as a thank you letter. It's a cold world in college football, about as cold as the dope game, if not colder. And this is a prime example of that. I doubt UCLA will be getting any more money from the Monday Night Football commentating star, Troy Aikman, the color commentating GOAT on Monday Night Football, if you will. Well, John Gruden might have that spot. I'm a John Gruden fan through and through. It's a disgrace. And it shows you where college football is at. College football is broken beyond repair. I'm losing hope by the day that college football is going to get it figured out. And stories like this just further affirm my sentiment around that. Let's head out after this. Penn State hired a new coach. What's his name? Is it Matt Campbell? Is that the guy's name out of Iowa State? I'm shocked that they got him out of Iowa State. He was a guy that in his introductory press conference said he's not going to leave until their program is in a certain spot. Obviously, in coaching and football, when you get the right offer, sometimes you got to go back on your word. And a lot of people are saying that that this hire for Penn State is a great one. Let's confirm his name. Matt Campbell. Yeah, we were right. So I didn't really, and this might not be very football guy me, but I didn't know who the heck this guy was. But everybody's saying it's a good hire for Penn State. And Penn State, who was the first to fire their coach, James Franklin, waited very long to get their guy. And I thought Penn State was absolutely hosed there for a week or two. And I've been watching a ton of Iowa State football, but apparently, at least according to McAfee, this is a good hire. This is a hire that boosters and Penn State alumni are apparently excited about. So that's all I have to say about that. And then the last thing, Michigan's head coach, Sharon Moore, I don't know how to say it, was fired from Michigan today, not a couple of hours ago, because apparently he had relations with a few Michigan staffers. These college football head coaches seem to not be able to keep their little willy in their pants. I'll tell you what, man, and I won't throw anybody under the bus. I won't name names, obviously. But being a part of college football myself as a player and being around guys that ended up being GAs, coaches, etc., college football coaches might be one of the horniest demographics of men that we have in our society today. I don't know if it's the stress from the job. I knew college coaches that were in their 40s that looked like they were in their 60s. And this is how they deal with the stress. This is how they unwind. They go out chasing tail. They go on the dating apps, chasing tail, go to the local dive bars, chasing tail. But college football head coaches are the horniest demographic of men I feel like I've ever known in society. That's just that. And this is why Sharon Moore was apparently fired from Michigan. Now, you set aside the fact that they didn't have the season they want to have, at least at a program like Michigan. You have coaches like Lane Kiffin that are behaving the same way, but it was covered up by culture, by winning, and that's just how the cookie crumbles, man. If Sharon Moore had gotten this team to the playoff, I doubt that anyone would have ever heard about this, at least not for a few years. But when you win, look, Future said it best. I forget what song it is, but Future, he's a great rapper. Future, out of Atlanta, said it best. You do what you want when you poppin'. You do what you want when you poppin'. You do what you want when you got it. You do what you want when you poppin'. And so all this mess went on for years with Lane Kiffin, but nobody said a peep because they knew what direction he was building that Ole Miss program, man. And a big program like Michigan, big expectations, a lot of money thrown around. They don't make it to the playoff, and all of a sudden, Sharon Moore is out after 1 year at Michigan, I believe. I think he just had this season. I could be wrong. Somebody fact check me on that. But horny college football coaches, man. If you're going to be horny as a college coach and you're going to act on those urges, you better win. All right, I'm going to send you guys off. I'm late to jiu-jitsu. We'll see you guys tomorrow. I was supposed to have a date tonight, but doesn't look like it's happening. So look out for a Madden stream. If you're not subbed, hit the subscribe button. Quick promo. You can watch any replay from any episode on our channel here. You can watch it on Kick. You can watch it on Twitch. Replays are available. I got to update the audio episodes. Those are typically updated daily. Any audio platform, big or small. You can make your girlfriend listen to football talk in the car safely. Don't watch videos in the car. Do as I say, not as I do. All right, hit the subscribe button. That's the most important thing. I know people are popping in here. We are a daily football show Monday through Friday. We're live at 6 p.m. Eastern, talking about the current football happenings, college, pro, hell, maybe high school, maybe middle school, maybe Pop Warner. You never know on this show, but we're covering the latest. We're adding our mentally challenged take to all of it. And I appreciate each and every one of you popping in. The most important thing, guys, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're trying to get this thing monetized. We're trying to hire a crew, and we can't do that without you. So with that, I'm late to jiu-jitsu. I got to head out. We got wrestling practice tonight, so I will leave you guys there. See you either tonight on the Madden stream or tomorrow on the show. Love you guys. Appreciate it.